The Coalition Council chamber was full. Representatives from every member species sat in their designated areas. Some had come in person. Others appeared as holograms. All of them were there to discuss one thing: humanity. 3 weeks had passed since the Battle of Nova Terra. 3 weeks of analysis and debate. 3 weeks of fear and hope mixed together. The galaxy had learned that the Vorlons could be defeated. But they had also learned that only one species seemed capable of doing it consistently. High Evaluator Theknor spoke first. The ancient crystal being's voice filled the chamber. I have evaluated warriors for 4,000 years. I have tested millions of soldiers from hundreds of species. Never have I encountered beings like humans. They are the most dangerous species I have ever studied. A murmur ran through the chamber. Dangerous. That word worried many of the counselors. Theknor continued. But I have also never encountered a species more careful about when and how they use that danger. They are predators who choose not to hunt, warriors who prefer peace. This combination makes them unique and valuable. The evaluator paused. I recommend full military integration. The coalition needs humanity. A counselor from the Minari species stood. She was small and covered in silver fur. But can we trust them? They think in ways we cannot understand. They make decisions we cannot predict. How do we know they will not turn those abilities against us? Counselor Vextar rose slowly. His forearms gestured for attention. I lost my homeworld to the Vorlons. Lost my family. Lost billions of my people. I know what it means to face an enemy you cannot defeat. His voice grew stronger. But at Nova Terra I watched humans put themselves between civilians and danger. I watched them mourn their dead as deeply as we mourn ours. Yes, they are dangerous. But they are dangerous to our enemies, not to us. The debate continued for hours. Some argued for restricted human involvement. Others wanted full integration. A few suggested that humanity should be kept at a distance, used only in emergencies. The council was deeply divided. Finally, they voted. By a narrow margin, humanity was granted expanded military status in the coalition. Human tactical advisors would be assigned to rapid response forces. Human combat doctrine would be studied and taught. And most importantly, when facing the Vorlons, requesting human support changed from optional to mandatory. On Earth, the news was celebrated. Humanity had proven itself. They were no longer the weak newcomers. They were valued members of the galactic community. But Commander Hanna, watching the celebrations, felt worried. Being valued meant being needed. Being needed meant being called upon. Again and again. Dr. Yuna spent her time traveling between coalition military academies. She taught classes on human tactical thinking, tried to help other species understand pattern recognition and instinctive decision-making. It was difficult. You could not teach millions of years of evolution in a classroom, but even small improvements helped. Coalition soldiers who learned to trust their instincts even a little became more effective. General Korvan became one of her best students. The old Drax warrior had learned the most important lesson at Nova Terra. Sometimes experience could make you rigid. Sometimes you needed to forget what you knew and simply react to what was happening. He began teaching this to his own troops. It changed how the Drax military thought about warfare. Daewon was offered many things: promotions, honors, a position as chief tactical advisor with a fancy office and a high salary. He turned them all down. Instead, he requested a simple role. He wanted to train coalition forces in adaptive combat. Not from an office. In the field. He traveled from base to base running exercises with mixed units, human and alien soldiers training together, learning from each other. He did not lecture. He asked questions, made them think about what they were seeing instead of what they expected to see. Some got it quickly. Others struggled. But all of them improved. Jinho stayed with him. Someone needed to translate Daewon's instinctive understanding into actual explanations, needed to take notes and create training materials, needed to be the organized one while Daewon operated on pure pattern recognition. But Jinho also struggled with his own demons. The battle at Nova Terra haunted him. He saw a counselor, talked about the fear and the violence. Slowly, he learned to carry the weight of what he had experienced. It never went away, but it became bearable. Min Seo was promoted to Senior Logistics Coordinator. She now managed supply chains for human coalition joint operations across multiple systems. Her ability to predict where resources would be needed before anyone asked for them became legendary. She was not as famous as Daewon, but she was just as important. However, not everything was positive. Some coalition species grew resentful of human prominence. There were incidents. A group of Drac soldiers started a fight with human Marines at a bar. They were angry that their tactics were being replaced by human methods. The fight ended badly for everyone involved. There was also a political movement on several worlds calling for restrictions on human military authority. They argued that giving too much power to one species was dangerous, that humanity was too unpredictable to be trusted. Fear of human abilities was turning into fear of humans themselves. Then someone tried to kill Commander Hana. She was giving a speech at a coalition military ceremony when shots were fired. Her security team stopped the assassin, but the message was clear. Not everyone wanted humans in positions of power. Earth's government had to walk a careful line. They had new influence in the coalition, but they were still vastly outnumbered. One wrong move and fear could turn humanity from heroes into enemies. They had to be careful, patient, prove themselves over and over again. Meanwhile, intelligence reports brought troubling news. The Vorlons were adapting. Their hive mind was studying the Battle of Nova Terra, learning from their defeat. Developing new tactics. They were trying to become unpredictable, trying to counter human-style warfare. Dr. Yuna was asked to analyze the reports. She spent weeks studying Vorlon behavior patterns. Her conclusion was both hopeful and worrying. The Vorlons could learn to be somewhat unpredictable, but a hive mind could never truly think like individual creatures. Their strength was coordination. Randomness went against their nature, however. She added a warning. The Vorlons had one advantage. When one part of the hive learned something, all parts learned it instantly. If they developed effective counters to human tactics, those counters would spread across their entire species immediately. Daewon was asked what he thought about the Vorlon adaptation. He shrugged. Good. It would be boring if they did not try to improve. But Jin Ho saw the worry in his friend's eyes. Human advantage was cognitive, not technological. If the Vorlons could negate that advantage, humans became just another weak species in a dangerous galaxy. 6 months after Nova Terra, the call came. Another Vorlon incursion, smaller than the Nova Terra fleet but still dangerous. They were attacking a mining colony in a remote system. Only 3,000 people lived there, but the mines were critical to the coalition economy. The coalition requested human assistance. Daewon and 50 Marines were dispatched along with 2,000 coalition troops. General Korvan volunteered to lead the coalition forces. He wanted to fight alongside humans again. As they prepared to board the transport ship, Jin Ho asked the question that had been bothering him. Are you ever scared before a battle? Daewon thought about it. Really thought about it. Every time, he finally said. The fear does not go away. You just get better at working through it. At doing your job despite being afraid. He pulled out his music player. That is what makes us human. We feel fear and we fight anyway. He selected a song. Symphony No. 9, the same music from the simulation. From Nova Terra, it had become his battle anthem. Jin Ho pulled out his own music player and queued up the same track. Across the transport bay, other Marines did the same. It had become a tradition. Before every mission, they all listened to the same song. Commander Hana watched her troops synchronize their music. She felt pride. They had come so far, proven themselves against impossible odds, saved millions of lives. But she also felt dread, because the coalition would keep calling, keep putting them in impossible situations. That was the price of being the best at something the galaxy needed. The transport ship's engines powered up. Soon they would jump to faster-than-light travel. Soon they would face the Vorlons again. More young soldiers would die. More families would mourn. But also more civilians would live. More worlds would survive. That was the trade. The terrible mathematics of war. Dr. Yuna had added a final note to her research journal. She wrote it the night before the troops departed. People ask me why humans are so good at warfare. They expect a complicated answer about evolution, and neural patterns and cognitive processing. But the real answer is simpler. Humans are good at warfare because they hate it. They understand the cost. They carry the weight of the dead. They fight because they must, not because they want to. And that reluctance, that understanding of what war really means, makes them better at it than species who see it as glorious or honorable, or just another problem to solve. She closed the journal. Day-One would not read her notes. He did not need to understand why he could do what he did. He just did it, and that was enough. The sensors detected them first. 10,000 ships appeared at the edge of the system. They had dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. The Vorlan fleet looked like a dark cloud spreading across space. In the command center on Nova Terra, alarms blared. Holographic displays showed the incoming threat. Red dots, so many red dots. General Corps, Fan looked at the numbers and felt something he'd not felt in 200 years. True fear, not for himself, for the 40 million people sleeping in their homes below. All forces to battle stations, Commander Hanna ordered. Across the planet, soldiers moved into position. Coalition troops took their assigned places. Human Marines checked their weapons. The orbital defense platforms powered up. Day-One stood at the main tactical display. He had both earbuds in, music playing. His eyes tracked the approaching fleet. The Vorlans moved exactly as predicted, a wave of ships spreading to surround the planet. They would attack from all sides at once. Standard swarm doctrine. Acting strategic commander, Korvan said. He had learned to use Day-One. Official title. The fleet will reach firing range in 20 minutes. Should we engage? No, Day-One said. All forces hold position. Do not fire. Jin Ho, stationed with his squad in the city, heard the order through his comm device. He felt his stomach tighten. They were just going to let the Vorlans approach? Every instinct said to fight back, but he had learned to trust Day-One. His instincts more than his own. The Vorlan fleet reached orbit. They began their assault pattern, ships positioning around the planet. The swarm moved like one giant organism. Because it was... The Vorlans were a hive mind. Millions of individual bodies controlled by one consciousness. That made them perfectly coordinated. It also made them predictable. They are preparing to deploy ground forces. An officer reported. 3 million combat drones. They will land in all 3 cities simultaneously. Still hold, Day-One said. His eyes were distant. He was seeing the pattern. Not the one happening now. The one about to happen. The one only he could see. Dr. Yuna watched from a safe observation post. Her screens showed the Vorlan approach vectors. Her other screens showed Day-One, sprain activity. Even now, facing the largest threat humanity had ever encountered, his neural patterns were calm. He was not stressed. He was focused. The first Vorlan dropships entered the atmosphere. Hundreds of them. They headed toward the cities where millions of civilians waited in reinforced shelters. To the Vorlans, it looked like the defenders were panicking. Defense positions seemed scattered. No clear formation. Gaps in the perimeter. Perfect. Then Day-One took out one earbud. Pattern Delta 7. He said calmly. Execute now. Across Nova Terra, forces moved. What had looked like chaos suddenly became a trap. The scattered positions were not scattered. They were perfectly placed. The gaps in the perimeter were not weaknesses. They were channels funneling the enemy into kill zones. Jin Ho, C squad opened fire from a rooftop. Vorlan drones fell from the sky. Other squads fired from different angles. Crossfire. The drones tried to swarm, but the urban terrain worked against them. Buildings blocked their movements. Streets became narrow corridors where numbers did not matter. In orbit, coalition ships that had seemed isolated suddenly had perfect firing solutions on the Vorlan fleet. Ships that looked vulnerable were actually deadly. The three-dimensional space around Nova Terra became a killing field. General Corps. Van fought in the streets alongside his Drax troops. A Vorlan unit tried to flank them. Before he could order a response, a group of human Marines simply shifted position and eliminated the threat. No orders needed. They saw the opportunity and took it. He found himself doing the same thing, reacting, trusting his instincts. It felt strange, but it worked. The Vorlan hive mind tried to adapt. It recognized the trap and attempted to disengage, to reform the swarm in a defensive pattern. But that was exactly what Day-One had been waiting for. The moment they stopped attacking and started defending, they became completely predictable. All forces, Day-One said. Weapons free. Engage at will. What happened next was not a battle. It was a hunt. Human Marines and coalition troops pursued the Vorlans through the city streets. Every time the swarm tried to form up, small teams hit them from unexpected angles. Every time they tried to retreat, they found their paths blocked. Minseo, as perfect logistics meant ammunition and supplies were exactly where they needed to be, when they needed Toby there. Jinho fought beside a Kelrath soldier named Ven. The alien had lost his family when the Vorlons destroyed his homeworld. Now he fought with a desperate energy. When a Vorlon drone got too close, Jinho shot it without thinking. When Jinho's weapon jammed, Ven covered him without being asked. They were not following a plan. They were keeping each other alive. In the command center, Daewon watched the tactical displays. The red dots were disappearing, slowly at first, then faster. The Vorlon fleet was breaking apart, not because they were beaten in direct combat, because they could not adapt to enemies who had no formation to break, no plan to disrupt, no predictable pattern to counter. Dr. Yuna recorded everything. This was history. The first time the Vorlons had been defeated in open battle, not through superior technology or numbers, through superior thinking, through chaos wielded like a weapon. 6 hours into the battle, General Corps, Van found himself laughing. Actually laughing while fighting. His tactical computer kept suggesting formations and protocols. He ignored it and trusted what he saw. An enemy position was vulnerable. He attacked it. Simple, effective. Why had he never fought like this before? 12 hours after first contact, the Vorlon hive mind made a decision. It had lost 30% of its fleet, 40% of its ground forces, and it was still losing. For the first time in the Vorlon's existence, it felt something like fear. These humans and their allies did not fight like other species. They were unpredictable, dangerous, wrong. The remaining Vorlon ships began to retreat. They pulled their ground forces back, leaving thousands of drones behind in their panic to escape. Coalition forces did not stop them. They let them run. Sometimes letting an enemy escape sends a stronger message than destroying them completely. 14 hours after the battle began, the last Vorlon ship jumped to faster-than-light travel. They were gone. Nova Terra was safe. The command center erupted in cheers. Officers from dozens of species celebrating together. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. Commander Hana looked at the casualty reports. 847 coalition troops killed. 23 human Marines. Each number was a person, a life. But compared to what could have been, it was a miracle. The civilians had 0 casualties. Every single person in those shelters had survived. Daewon sat in a corner of the command center. His earbuds were in, but no music played. He just sat there quiet. Jinho found him and sat down beside him. Neither of them spoke. They had won, but 23 of their fellow Marines would never go home. General Corps. Van approached them. The old Drax warrior looked tired. "Corporal Daewon," he said formally. Then he did something shocking. He bowed. A Drax general bowing to a human corporal. "You saved 40 million lives today. You saved my life. I doubted you. I was wrong." Daewon looked up. "You fought well, General. Your troops fought well. This was not my victory. It was everyone. Still, Corps," Van said. "You showed me something today. You showed me that experience is not the same as wisdom, that sometimes the young can teach the old." He straightened up. "If you ever need anything, Corporal, you only need to ask." The general walked away. Jinho smiled slightly. "He called you Corporal, not acting strategic commander." "Good," Daewon said. "I do not like fancy titles." Over the next few days, they held services for the fallen. Human and coalition soldiers who died protecting Nova Terra. Daewon attended every ceremony. He stood silently while others spoke. He did not cry, but something in his eyes was different. Harder. Sadder. Dr. Yuna noticed the change. She found him one evening, sitting alone on the same rooftop where he'd sat before the battle. "Are you all right?" she asked. Daewon did not answer right away. His music player was next to him, but it was off. "I saw the pattern," he finally said. "I saw how to win, but I did not see their faces. The ones who would die. I knew there would be casualties. But knowing is not the same as seeing." Dr. Yuna sat down beside him. "That is what makes humans different," she said quietly. "Other species calculate losses. You feel them. Coalition commanders see casualties as numbers in a tactical report. You see them as people you failed to save. I did not fail," Daewon said. "We won. 40 million people are alive, but 23 Marines are not. And I have to carry that." "Yes," Dr. Yuna said. You do. That is the price of being good at war. You carry the weight of the dead. But you also carry the gratitude of the living. 40 million people are eating dinner with their families tonight because of you. Daewon picked up his music player. He scrolled through his playlist for a long time. Finally, he selected something. Not his battle music. Something quiet and sad. Nova Terra was beautiful from space. Blue oceans and green continents. 3 major cities glowed on the night side like jewels. Daewon watched through the transport ship window as they approached. Somewhere down there, 40 million people lived normal lives. They did not know that death was coming for them in 2 weeks. The transport landed at the main military base. 300 human Marines filed out. They looked small compared to the base. Thousands of coalition soldiers worked there. Ships and vehicles filled the landing pads. Defense platforms orbited overhead. It was the most powerful military installation in this part of space. It would not be enough. General Korvan waited on the landing pad. He was Drax, one of the Coalition's warrior species, 8 feet tall with gray skin like stone, 4 arms crossed over his massive chest. 200 years of combat experience showed in his scars. He looked at the small group of humans and did not bother hiding his displeasure. Commander Hana, he said. His voice was deep and rough. I am told I must take orders from your people. I am told this despite having fought in 300 battles across 2 centuries. I am told this because a boy completed a simulation quickly. Commander Hana met his eyes. I understand your frustration, General. I would feel the same way. But orders come from the Security Council, not from me. Orders I must follow, Korvan said. But I do not have to like them. He looked at Daewon. You, the Marine who supposedly won the impossible simulation. What is your plan? Daewon looked up from his music player. I do not have one yet. I need to see the city first. Korvan's forearms uncrossed. You need to see the city. We have 2 weeks before the largest Vorlon fleet in history arrives, and you need to walk around the city. Yes, Daewon said simply. He started walking toward the base exit. Jinho followed him. So did a Marine named Mincio. She was the logistics specialist, 29 years old, always carrying a tablet full of supply lists and schedules. The 3 humans walked out of the military base and into the city beyond. Korvan watched them go. This is madness, he said to Commander Hana. The fate of 40 million people rests on that young Marine who cares more about music than military protocol. Give him time, Hana said. He sees things differently than we do. I have 200 years of experience, Korvan said. What can he possibly see that I cannot? Hana smiled sadly. That is what I want to find out. For 6 hours, Daewon walked through the city. He did not look at military positions or defense points. He watched people. Families eating lunch at outdoor restaurants. Children playing in parks. Workers rushing between buildings. He bought food from street vendors and sat on benches. Jinho followed, taking notes on his tablet. He did not understand what they were doing, but he had learned to trust Daewon's process. Mincio marked buildings and streets on her digital map, already starting to see patterns in the city layout. When they returned to the base, Korvan was waiting with other coalition officers. They had prepared detailed briefings, holographic maps, enemy projections, resource calculations, traditional military planning. Now we plan, Korvan said. Show us your strategy. Daewon looked at the maps. He pointed to 3 locations in the city. Put forces here, here, and here. When the Vorlons arrive, wait for my signal. Then execute pattern Delta 7. Korvan stared at him. That is not a plan. Those are 3 positions with no explanation. And what is pattern Delta 7? I will know it when I see it, Daewon said. The general's stone-like skin turned a darker shade of gray. That meant anger in Drax's body language. This is unacceptable. We need detailed battle plans, contingencies, supply chains, command structures. You cannot defend a planet with vague instructions. Commander Hana stepped between them. General, may I explain something about human warfare? Korvan crossed his arms again. Please. Coalition military doctrine is like chess, Hana said. You calculate moves ahead of time. You plan for every scenario. You execute the plan. Human doctrine is different. We improvise, we adapt. We react to what actually happens instead of what we think will happen. That is chaos, Korvan said. Not strategy? Yes, Hana agreed. It is controlled chaos. And sometimes chaos is exactly what wins battles. Dr. Yuna had arrived on Nova Terra to observe. She joined the conversation. "General, may I show you something?" She pulled up brain scans on a holographic display. "This is your brain processing tactical information. See how your frontal cortex activates? You are calculating planning. This is Corporal Daywan processing the same information. His frontal cortex barely activates. Instead, his entire brain works together. He is not planning. He is recognizing patterns." Korvan studied the scans. "So he cannot explain his tactics because he does not consciously think about them." "Exactly," Dr. Yuna said. "Then how can I trust him to lead this defense?" Korvan asked. "How can I put 40 million lives in the hands of someone who works on instinct?" "You already did," Daywan said quietly. He had been listening while scrolling through his music. "The Security Council ordered it. You can fight the order, but that wastes time. Or you can work with me. Your choice, General." The two warriors looked at each other. Human and Drax, young and old. Instinct and experience. Finally, Korvan let out a long breath. "What do you need from me, Corporal?" "Tell me about your troops," Daywan said. "Not their numbers. Tell me what they can do, what they are good at, what they are afraid of." Korvan was surprised by the question. In 200 years, no one had asked him that. They asked about weapons and armor and tactical capabilities, not about the soldiers themselves. He sat down and began to talk. For hours, he described his troops. The Drax heavy infantry who were strong and disciplined. The Minari scouts who could see in darkness. The Kelrath support units who had survived the destruction of their homeworld and fought with desperate courage. Daywan listened to everything. He did not take notes. He just listened and nodded. Mincio, however, typed constantly on her tablet. She was translating Daywan's instinctive understanding into actual logistics. Where to place supplies, how to organize support, what equipment would be needed and where. Over the next week, something unexpected happened. Daywan spent time with every unit commander. He asked about their soldiers. He listened to their concerns. He did not lecture. He did not give orders. He just talked and listened. Slowly, the coalition officers began to see something. This young human genuinely cared about their troops. He was not treating them like pieces on a game board. He was treating them like people. Meanwhile, Mincio performed miracles with logistics. Supplies appeared where they would be needed. Equipment was positioned in seemingly random locations that would only make sense during actual combat. She was translating Daywan's pattern recognition into practical reality. 1 week before the Vorlan arrival, Daywan made an announcement that shocked everyone. "The civilians will stay in the cities." Korvan stood up so fast his chair fell over. "That violates every principle of defensive warfare. We evacuate civilians. We always evacuate civilians. And the Vorlans know that," Daywan said calmly. "They expect evacuation. They position their forces to intercept refugee ships. That is when civilians die in the largest numbers. But if the civilians stay in the cities, the Vorlans have to come to us. They have to cluster around population centers. Urban terrain breaks up their swarm tactics." Counselor Vextar, who had been observing remotely, spoke through a communication device. "He is right. That is exactly what happened to my world. We evacuated. The Vorlans slaughtered us in open space where their numbers meant everything." The counselor's voice was heavy with old pain. "If we had stayed in the cities, maybe more would have survived." Korvan looked at the floor. He was beginning to understand. Human tactics were not about following rules. They were about seeing the actual situation and responding to it. "What else do you need, Corporal?" "Training," Daywan said. "Your troops need to train with my Marines. Not to learn human tactics, to learn how to think like humans." They ran exercises every day, coalition units paired with human Marines. At first it was chaos. The coalition troops followed procedures. The humans seemed to do random things. But slowly, patterns emerged. When a coalition unit got pinned down, nearby humans would shift positions without being ordered. They would create crossfire. They would eliminate threats. Not because someone told them to. Because it was the obvious thing to do. Korvan watched one exercise where a Drax unit was trapped by simulated enemies. They called for orders, waited for permission to move. A human Marine nearby simply tossed a grenade that opened an escape route. The Drax looked confused. "Why did you do that?" they asked. The Marine shrugged. "You needed help." Something clicked in Korvan's mind. Humans did not fight as individuals following a plan. They fought as a group responding to reality. Like a school of fish, like a flock of birds. They moved together without needing to discuss it. 3 days before the Vorlons arrived, Daewon gathered all the commanders. Human and coalition. He did not give a traditional speech about honor or duty. Instead, he told a story about his first real battle on Earth. His squad had been outnumbered and surrounded. They won because they stopped following the plan and started following their instincts. The Vorlons are efficient, Daewon said. The analysis chamber was crowded. Dozens of coalition scientists pressed around computer screens. Holographic displays showed numbers and graphs that nobody could make sense of. In the center of the room, a large screen played the simulation over and over again, slowed down, frame by frame. Dr. Yuna stood near the main display. She was a human scientist, 31 years old with glasses that kept sliding down her nose. She pushed them up for the 100th time and stared at the data. "This should not be possible," she said quietly. Next to her, Theknor's crystal body pulsed with different colors. The evaluator had been reviewing the data for 6 hours. "There must be an error," Theknor said. The simulation executed 847 combat resolutions, 156 civilian rescue protocols, 23 environmental calculations, all in 6.43 seconds. "This is mathematically impossible." "And yet it happened," Dr. Yuna said. She pulled up another screen. "Look at this." We checked every line of code. The simulation ran perfectly. No glitches, no errors, no signs of hacking or tampering. A tall alien that looked like a bird made of metal stepped forward. Then the human somehow tricked the system in a way we cannot detect. "No," said Dr. Yuna. She brought up the slow-motion playback. "Watch." In the first second, his avatar moved 3 times. Each position was perfect. Each one caused the enemy formation to break apart. In the second second, he eliminated 47 high-priority targets while directing civilians to safe zones. By the third second, he had found 7 weaknesses in the enemy pattern that even the simulation designers did not know existed. The room fell quiet. Everyone watched the screen. The simulation played in extreme slow motion. They could see Daewon's avatar moving through the burning city. Every step was exactly right. Every shot hit its target. Every decision was perfect. It looked like someone who had run this simulation 1,000 times before, but this was his first time. "We need to talk to the Marine," Theknor announced. They brought Daewon into an interview room. It was small and white. A table and 2 chairs. Dr. Yuna sat on one side. Theknor floated nearby, crystal body dim. Commander Hana stood by the door. She wanted to be there to protect her Marine if things went badly. Daewon sat down. He looked relaxed. His music player sat on the table in front of him. "Corporal," Dr. Yuna began, "we need you to explain how you completed the simulation." Daewon shrugged. "I did what made sense." Theknor's light pulsed. "That is not an explanation. You eliminated 800 enemy units. You rescued every civilian. You completed in 6 seconds what takes our best warriors nearly a minute. We need details." Daewon thought for a moment. "The enemy moved in a swarm pattern. Swarms have gaps. I found the gaps. The civilians were grouped in predictable positions near the city center. I protected them first. The burning buildings could be used as weapons against the enemy. I made them collapse on the right targets." He paused. "It was obvious." "Obvious," Theknor repeated. The word came out flat. Dr. Yuna leaned forward. "Can you describe your thought process? Step by step? How did you analyze the situation?" Daewon looked uncomfortable. "I did not really analyze it. I just saw it, like a pattern. When I closed my eyes and listened to the music, I could see the whole battle, beginning to end. I just followed what I saw." "You saw it," Dr. Yuna said slowly. She made notes on her tablet. "Before it happened, sort of. Not like the future, more like possibilities. And I picked the best one." Daewon could tell they did not understand. He did not really understand it himself. It was just something he could do. Like some people could sing or draw, he could see patterns in chaos. Theknor made a sound like crystals breaking. "This is not sufficient explanation. We will test the other humans." They ran the simulation with Jinho next. He completed it in 12.7 seconds. Then another Marine finished in 15 seconds. Then 9.8 seconds. Then 11 seconds. They tested 6 humans total. All of them finished in under 16 seconds. All of them shattered the previous coalition record of 43 seconds. When they interviewed the other Marines, the answers were similar. It felt right. The pattern was obvious. I just did what made sense. None of them could explain their thinking in a way the coalition scientists understood. Dr. Yuna spent 3 days studying the results. She compared human brain scans to alien brain scans. She reviewed Earth's history. She built models and ran tests. Finally, she called a meeting with the coalition military leadership. The conference room was huge. Leaders from 20 different species sat around a circular table. Theknor was there. Commander Hana represented Earth. A scarred alien with 4 arms and gray skin sat at the head of the table. This was Counselor Vextar from the Kelrath people, the same people who had been destroyed in the battle that inspired the simulation. Dr. Yuna stood to present her findings. A holographic display appeared above the table. I believe I understand what is happening, she began. It comes down to how humans evolved. She pulled up an image of Earth. Humans come from what we call a death world, a planet where millions of species competed for survival. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most dangerous, but they survived by becoming the best hunters. The display showed ancient humans hunting. They hunted by chasing their prey for hours, sometimes days. They learned to read tracks, to predict behavior, to see patterns in nature. Their brains developed to process multiple threats at once, to make quick decisions with incomplete information, to understand complex situations instantly. Most species, Dr. Yuna continued, think in steps. Identify threat, analyze threat, choose response, execute response. 4 separate processes. Humans do all 4 at once. They call it instinct. It is not magic. It is millions of years of evolution compressed into split-second decision-making. She showed brain scans. Look at this. This is Corporal Daewon's brain activity during the simulation. Notice anything unusual? Theknor's crystal body brightened. His neural activity barely changed. It looks almost the same as when he was resting. Exactly, Dr. Yuna said. He was not thinking harder. He was not calculating. He was simply reacting. For coalition species, complex tactical problems require intense mental effort. For humans, those same problems trigger automatic responses, like breathing, like blinking. They just happen. The room was silent. Then Counselor Vextar spoke. His voice was rough and sad. My people had 6 hours to prepare for the Vorlan attack. 6 hours with our best commanders, our fastest computers, our most advanced tactical systems. We still lost. This human had 6 seconds and won perfectly. I am sorry, Dr. Yuna said softly. Vextar's 4 arms moved in a gesture that might have been a shrug. Do not apologize. I asked to see this presentation because I need to understand. The Vorlans destroyed my world, killed billions of my people. If humans can stop them, then humanity gives me hope. He paused. But I need to know if that hope is real. Commander Hana stood. Counselor, may I speak plainly? Please. A simulation is not a real battle, Hana said. My Marines performed well in a controlled test. But war is different. People die. Plans fail. Fear becomes real. I cannot promise that human instincts will be enough against the Vorlans in actual combat. I appreciate your honesty, Vextar said. He looked at the other counselors. But we may have a chance to find out. He pressed a button and a star map appeared above the table. A red marker pulsed on one world. This is Nova Terra, a colony world with 40 million people. 3 different species live there together. 6 hours ago, we detected a Vorlan fleet heading toward that system. It is the largest fleet we have ever seen. 10,000 ships, 3 million combat drones. They will arrive in 2 weeks. The room erupted. Multiple voices speaking at once. Fear and anger mixed together. Vextar raised one hand for silence. Our tactical computers say we cannot win. Every simulation shows us losing. Civilian survival rate is calculated at 12%. 12%. His voice broke. I watched 12% of my people survive once before. I will not watch it happen again. He turned to Commander Hana. The Coalition Security Council has made a decision. We are requesting that humanity lead the defense of Nova Terra. Not assist, not advise, lead. We will place 40 million lives under human command. Hana's face showed no emotion, but inside she felt cold. This was enormous. Too enormous. She opened her mouth to speak, but someone else spoke first. How many Marines can I have? Everyone turned. Daewon stood in the doorway. His music player was in his hand, earbuds dangling. He had been listening to the meeting. Now he looked at Vextar with serious eyes. "Corporal," Commander Hana said sharply, "this is a closed meeting." "I was waiting outside," Daewon said. "The door is thin." He looked back at Vextar. "How many Marines can I have for the defense?" Vextar studied the young human. "We can transport 300 human Marines to Nova Terra, and you will have 50,000 Coalition troops already stationed there." Daewon nodded slowly. He was thinking. Everyone could see him thinking. His eyes distant. 300 Marines. 50,000 Coalition troops. Urban terrain. 2 weeks preparation time. He looked up. "We can work with that." "You speak with great confidence for someone so young," Theknor said. Daewon looked at the crystal being. The assessment station floated in space like a giant metal flower. Its silver panels caught the light from the nearby star. Inside, aliens from 12 different worlds watched through glass walls. They wanted to see what humans could do in battle. Daewon stood in the waiting room with the other human Marines. He was 24 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. His uniform was clean but worn at the edges. He had his music player in one hand, thumb scrolling through song names. Jinho paced back and forth beside him. "You need to focus," Jinho said. "This is important. Everyone is watching us." Daewon looked up from his music. "I am focused. You are looking at songs. Music helps me think." Daewon went back to scrolling. He had a whole playlist called Battle Mix, but nothing felt right today. Commander Hana walked into the room. She was tall and straight-backed. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes were sharp. "They are ready for you, Corporal," she said to Daewon. Then she stepped closer and spoke quietly. "I know you think this is just another test, but humanity's place in the Coalition depends on how we perform today. Do you understand?" Daewon nodded. "I understand, Commander." She studied his face for a moment, then walked away. Jinho let out a breath. "You really are not worried, are you?" "Worrying does not help," Daewon said simply. The testing chamber was huge. When Daewon walked in, he felt small. The floor was made of some kind of white material that glowed softly. The wall seemed to go up forever. In the center was a circle marked in blue light. That was where he needed to stand. Above the chamber, behind thick glass, the observers gathered. Daewon could see them pointing at him. Some of them looked like insects. Some looked like crystals. One looked like floating water. They all looked at him like he was something strange and probably useless. A voice filled the chamber. It sounded like music and rocks grinding together at the same time. "I am High Evaluator Theknor," the voice said. "I have tested warriors for 4,000 years. This simulation contains a battle scenario that destroyed the Kelrath civilization. 847 enemy units. Multiple objectives. Civilian rescue required." Daewon looked up at the observation window. One of the crystalline beings was glowing brighter than the others. "That must be Theknor. The current record is 43 seconds, Theknor continued. "Anything under 70 seconds is acceptable for combat duty. Do you understand the parameters?" "Yes," Daewon said. "You may prepare yourself." Daewon pulled out his music player again. He scrolled through his list. Symphony rock? Something electronic? Jinho was right that he needed to focus, but Jinho did not understand that this was how he focused. Music made everything else quiet in his head. In the observation room, an alien that looked like a tall blue lizard made a hissing sound. "The human is not even paying attention," it said. Theknor's crystal body pulsed with light. "This is disrespectful. Perhaps humans are not ready for Coalition service." Commander Hana stood with her arms crossed. Her face stayed calm, but inside she was angry. Why did Daewon have to make this harder? She knew he was good. She had seen him in training. But the Coalition did not know that. They only saw a young Marine who seemed to care more about music than the test. "Begin when ready," Theknor announced. The chamber changed. The white floor disappeared, and suddenly Daewon was standing in a city. Buildings burned around him. The sky was red with smoke. Somewhere in the distance, something roared. The simulation had started. A holographic timer appeared in the air. Red numbers counting up from 0. Zirkui Grur. The numbers started moving. Daewon was still looking at his music player. His thumb moved between 2 songs. One was a symphony. Classical music from Earth, hundreds of years old. The other was rock music with screaming guitars. He chose the symphony and pressed play. He put one earbud in his ear. The music started. Soft at first, then building. He closed his eyes. In the observation room, the aliens stared. "What is he doing?" someone asked. "Nothing," another answered. "He is doing nothing." Jin-Ho covered his face with his hands. This was a disaster. Everyone would think humans were not serious about joining the coalition. Everyone would think they were a joke. Commander Hana did not move. She watched Daewon standing there with his eyes closed, head nodding slightly to music only he could hear. The timer counted up. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. 4 seconds. 5 seconds. 6 seconds. The simulation froze. Everything stopped. The burning city, the smoke, the sounds of battle, all of it just stopped. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. Bright yellow letters in the air. Simulation complete. Time, 0006, 43 result. Total victory, all. Objectives achieved. All hostiles eliminated. 0 civilian casualties. The observation room went completely silent. Theknor's crystal body stopped glowing. For the first time in 4,000 years of testing warriors, the evaluator did not know what to say. The blue lizard alien's mouth hung open. Other observers turned to look at each other, their strange faces showing confusion. Jin-Ho slowly lowered his hands from his face. He looked at the display. He looked at Daewon. He looked at the display again. "What just happened?" he whispered. Commander Hana allowed herself the smallest smile, just the corner of her mouth lifting for a moment. She knew Daewon was good, but even she had not expected this. Down in the chamber, Daewon opened his eyes. He looked at the yellow letters floating in the air. He looked confused. He took the earbud out of his ear and looked up at the observation window. "Is it over already?" he called out. Theknor finally found words. You completed the simulation." "Oh." Daewon looked at his music player. "I did not even get through the first song." He started scrolling again, looking for something else to listen to. "This is impossible," said one of the alien observers. "The simulation must be broken. No one can clear 800 targets in 6 seconds. Check the system," another one said. "The human must have cheated somehow." Theknor's crystal body started glowing again, but differently this time. Not with anger. With something else. Maybe interest. Maybe fear. "We will review the simulation data," the evaluator announced. "Every microsecond will be examined. If there is any evidence of tampering, the human will be disqualified." Commander Hana stepped forward. "You will find no tampering," she said calmly. "Corporal Daewon simply completed your test." The observers began talking all at once. Different languages mixing together. Some voices high and whistling. Others deep and rumbling. All of them confused. All of them trying to understand what they had just seen. Jin-Ho walked to the glass wall. He looked down at Daewon in the chamber below. His friend stood there completely relaxed, looking at his music player. Like nothing unusual had happened. Like he had not just done something that was supposed to be impossible. "How did you do it?" Jin-Ho said, even though Daewon could not hear him through the glass. Down in the chamber, Daewon found a song he liked. He pressed play and put both earbuds in. He started walking toward the exit, nodding his head to the music. The simulation equipment powered down around him. The holographic city faded away. The burning buildings disappeared. Soon it was just the white glowing floor again. Daewon walked out of the chamber. He did not look back. He had done what they asked. Now he wanted lunch. Maybe something with noodles. And he needed to reorganize his battle playlist. The symphony had been good, but he was thinking maybe something with more drums next time. Behind him, the coalition observers stared at the empty chamber. Stared at the data that said 6.43 seconds. Stared at the result that said total victory. And they began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they did not understand humans at all.